It is that time now once again for getting lumped up with my friends. It's Rocker Mike and Rob that you should know, and you'll find them here on the Rock Show. Ooh, yeah, on the Rock Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rockshow, episode 212. And today we're going to be talking about the Irish band, the Pogues. I'm Rocker Mike, and we've got Rob Rossi, top right. How you doing, Rob?
Pretty good today.
Excellent, excellent. And on the bottom, we got returning guest Nate from the fantastic Pogues tribute band Dark Streets, based out of New York City. Welcome back, Nate. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, yeah, good to see you, man. Glad you could come on.
Happy to chat about the Pogues anytime.
Yeah, definitely. So this is a special show. It's coming out, obviously, in March by the time everybody sees this. And so it kind of ties in with St. Paddy's Day and all that big celebration that month. And before we get into the history of the Pogues, one of my all-time favorite bands, we're going to talk to Nate about what he's got coming up for that St. Paddy's weekend. I'm looking at the schedule here. You're playing, hold on a second, you're playing the Bitter End on the 15th, which would be the Saturday.
That's right, yeah.
7 p.m. Then you're doing the cruise, the booze cruise again. I was on that last year. That's where we met.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that's on the 16th. Now,
That's,
just so people know with that, they can go online and look up the, what's it called? The Pogues Booze Cruise?
They call it the fairy tale, and
Fairy
tale.
Tale.
Like a boat ferry.
Yeah, right.
Ferrtale. Fairy Tale of New York. Yeah, it starts at 1. They do a loop around the old Statue of Liberty and come back. I think it's like the Liberty Lines or something like that. But yeah, the dudes that put that on, they're a blast. They do a lot of fun shows. So yeah,
we had a great time last year. It was a lot of fun. I think we ran out of Guinness by the end of the trip, man.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, but they do a nice job. Definitely get your tickets for that, because the more people that get on, the bigger boat we get.
Oh, okay, cool. Good to know. Good to know. I'll definitely promote that. I'm trying to figure out. We're recording this a little early, so I'm still trying to figure out which one of these I'm doing. After the cruise, though, same day, which would be the Sunday, you're going to play Mama Tried in Brooklyn, that club.
Yep.
All right, that's at 5.
Yeah.
And then you're playing on the day, which is this year St. Paddy's falls on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing the infamous Paddy Riley's Pub.
Yes.
On 2nd Avenue and between 28th and 29th, I think it is, right? Or 27th.
What time is that show? Is that an 8 o'clock show? 10 o'clock?
That's a 7 o'clock show.
7 o'clock show.
And you can bet they're going to be having music there all day long. So
yeah, there'll be stuff there probably they're not even telling us yet. Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool.
Maybe after work, I take a cab and go down there, because I'm working all day tonight.
You work till 8 that night?
Yeah.
All right. I'm probably going to the parade, weather permitting. So we'll
are they doing that on Sunday, or is that going to be on Monday?
The parade?
Yeah.
Well, it'll probably be on Monday.
It'll be on Monday.
They'll do it on proper? Yeah.
You know what? If St. Patty falls on a Sunday, they won't do the parade. They do it the day before.
Yeah.
Okay.
The parade change.
That's usually the tradition. They won't put it on Sunday because everybody's supposed to be in mass. So, all right. So we're going to talk about the Pogues. Now, obviously, they were I guess you can call it Celtic punk. Or there's lots of labels for the band. I just think it's great music, no matter how you label it. Shane MacGowan, the famous Shane MacGowan, he was kind of an Irish guy that grew up in England, really. And we'll talk about that a little bit, because really the Pogues couldn't have happened without him. Nope. And sadly, he's been gone since the end of 2023, passed away. But the Pogues music lives on. And it really, to me, some of the greatest music that's ever been. You agree with that, Nate? I mean,
yeah, 100%. His music is timeless. He tapped into a stream of consciousness or art that is very rare, in any generation. But you know, the guy you know, he didn't when he first started out. You know, his first passion was writing.
Yes.
He was really into literacy, and he read a lot and he wrote, and that's actually how he got into some of the schools that he got into because of his you know, he was like an advanced writer, so he would write a lot of poetry. But then as soon as he got into punk rock, that's when he said, well, this is going to be my avenue to get my work out. So
right, there's a great documentary about Shane, and eventually it gets into the Pogues towards the second half of it, called Crock of Gold. You could see it on Amazon. I believe it's included with Prime. I've watched it several times over the years. It came out about 4 years ago. So Shane is in it. He narrates it. He talks through the whole thing and talks about his life and how he got the Pogues together.
yeah.
But you're right.
He talks through the whole thing, but you know, it's hard to without subtitles.
It is subtitled appropriately because you know, he's a little lumped up. He's a little hard to understand. You know, but it's okay. He's Shane.
He lived hard.
Right. So actually, you're totally correct too about the literary aspect of him, and because that's how they got the name of the band anyway, because it's a takeoff of James Joyce.
Yep.
Who was probably the most famous Irish writer there's ever been.
Yeah.
I'm gonna butcher the Gaelic, but it was really Pogue thóin, meaning kiss my ass.
Pogue Mahone.
Pogue Mahone, excuse me. Pogue Mahone,
Yeah.
which means kiss my ass. Right, that's the name of one of their albums too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the original name of the band, and they had to change it because I think the BBC wouldn't allow it.
Right. That's true. All right, so let's get into it. We're gonna talk about this fantastic story that really kind of starts at the tail end of the punk years in England. You know, Shane was a you know, big fixture on that scene.
Yeah, prominent man, and you know, a standout guy because you know, he's tall. And he's got an obvious look that stands out. So anytime there was film crew or anything going on, like at all of those, you know, early Sex Pistol shows or the punk shows that were happening, like they inevitably Shane would be like up front and like the most enthusiastic dude there. So you'd stand out. Yes.
And if anybody's ever seen the punk rock movie, which was put out, Don Letts directed it. It was put out in the late 70s. It's a shot with 8mm film all around the 100 Club in London. Shane is prominent through the whole thing. That's the famous footage of him dancing in the Union Jack coat. And everything like that, dancing around on the slam dancing, I guess you could say, all around. But, you know, obviously he couldn't have done the Pogues by himself. He had a few people with him to start out. Originally there was Peter Spider Stacy. Spider was his nickname. He would play the tin whistle eventually. And then you had Jem Finer on banjo. Now, they were together in an occasional band called the Millwall Chainsaws.
Yeah.
And that started in the late 70s, right around the time when Shane had the Nips. Okay, the nip, or originally they were called the nipple erectors. They had to change to the Nips, but but they were a very cool band. That he put out a couple of singles, and years later, more material would come out.
Yeah,
but the Millwall Chainsaws was kind of you know, the early version of the Pogues in the sense MacGowan and Spider actually met in the bathroom at the Roundhouse during a Ramones gig in 1977. And at that point, MacGowan had the Nips. And then when they broke up in 1980, he concentrated on Stacy's band, which was the Millwall Chainsaws. And they had actually changed their name to the New Republicans. So there was kind of an Irish twist already becoming on that at that point.
Yeah, I think the New Republicans, their whole point was they wanted to be playing like IRA songs in London.
Right.
Which you know, went over like, you know,
right. I mean, to put it in context,
not so well.
Yeah, I mean, just so if people remember, in the late 70s, early 80s, the IRA was having a bombing campaign in England, okay, or wherever the British were, and so to do this was quite controversial,
pretty nutsy.
Yeah. I mean, Shane was known as a proponent of the IRA. He used to write IRA on his forehead and stuff like that. Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so they played. Shane and Stacy would performed their first gig as the New Republicans at Richard Strange's Cabaret Futura in London's Rupert Street, Soho, in the early months of 1981. An interesting group that was on the bill at the same time was Soft Cell. Okay, just so you understand the context of what we're talking about. 1981 was like new wave and stuff like that, and Soft Cell did that version of Tainted Love that was very popular. Yeah. MacGowan had no use for any of that stuff. I mean, if you watch that documentary, he's like, yeah, I had no use for the new wave, new romantics, and all that stuff. He said it was just crap, you know. So he was doing something totally different anyway. So in 1982, MacGowan, Stacy, and Finer formed the band originally called Pogue Mahone, like we just said. James Fernley, who had been a guitarist with Shane in the Nips, joined shortly afterwards. Fernley had noted that Stacy suggested the band's original name taken from a sentence in James Joyce's Ulysses book, when the character Buck Mulligan yells out, Pogue Mahone. Okay, so he yelled out, Kiss My Ass, and he thought it would be a great name for the band.
Yeah. I think Spider initially proposed it.
Yes.
And then Shane was like, that's brilliant. Pogue Mahone.
Well, when I say Stacy, I mean Spider. Peter
yes,
Spider was his nickname.
Yeah.
So the new group played their first gig at the Pindar of Wakefield on October 4th, 1982. By their show on Friday, October 29th, just a few weeks later at the 100 Club, Kate O'Riordan played on bass, and John Hasler played drums. Okay, so they started out as a smaller unit and would expand now with bass and drums. Eventually, Andrew Rankin would replace Hasler on drums in March of 1983. And still calling themselves Pogue Mahone, they appeared on the 3rd of November 1983 at Gossips in Dean Street in Soho with another band called Trash, Trash, Trash and the Stingrays. So they were already getting popular, getting gigs. I'm sure that was based on Shane's prominence and like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was a fixture in the scene, so it wasn't hard for him to get gigs.
Yeah.
He also was in the Nips too, and like that was
the Nips were popular.
Reputable. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really make an album, but they still had some singles and some great songs. It was a little, if you listen to the Nips, they were a little kind of like poppier than the regular punk that was there, but it was still great stuff.
Yeah. It was kind of stripped down, but still in the punk vein. But yeah, it kind of bounced all over. But you could see that like Shane was writing, a different type of song than what was happening in the punk scene. I mean, it still doesn't really translate as Irish, but yeah, you're right. It wasn't like your traditional punk rock at all.
No, it was
maybe. I mean, a couple tunes, maybe, but
yeah. I mean, it's
like Gabrielle is just like a straight up pop tune.
Right. But it's good. It's all just catchy stuff that's fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Now the band would play London pubs and clubs, and eventually they would release their first single, "Dark Streets of London," okay, which you obviously get your tribute band name from that song.
Indeed.
And they were on their own self-named label at that point, okay, especially for their live performances and national airplay on BBC Radio 1. They would perform on that. John Peel would recognize them as great. David Jensen, who was a popular host on an evening show in England at the time, had them on. Okay, they came to the attention of the media and also Stiff Records when they opened for The Clash on their 1984 tour. Okay, and Joe Strummer would be involved with them pretty much forever after that. Okay, for different variations. There was supposedly a complaint from the BBC producer of Scotland about the name. Okay, Pogue Mahone, which again means "kiss my ass," and they said, "Oh well, okay, we'll call ourselves the Pogues." Yeah. Actually, it was Jensen, the host, who said, "Why don't you just call yourself the Pogues?"
Oh,
yeah, which I never knew until I did some research.
Yeah, right on.
That's pretty interesting.
Now, Stiff Records, we're going to be doing an interview soon with an author named Richard Balls. He had done a great book on Shane MacGowan, which we had made the must-read book of the year of 2024. Yeah. He's coming back in March to do an interview about Stiff Records. He wrote a book about them too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so shout out to Richard. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great writer. That Shane MacGowan's book is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good. It's phenomenal.
So in 84, they would release on Stiff Records their first record called Red Roses for Me. It came out in October of that year. It's a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know, and didn't you recently do with your band like a whole set of the album?
Yeah, we played the whole album. We've actually done it a couple of times. We originally did it when we played with a Clash tribute band, where they played all the Clash's first album, and then we played all of Pogues' first album over at Brooklyn Bull. But then recently, within this past year, they marked the 30th anniversary of the album. So then we went and did it again over at Patty Riley's.
Oh, nice.
And yeah,
40th anniversary. We're getting old.
Is it 40, my lord?
Yeah, 84.
No comment.
Yeah. 2024.
We are getting old.
It's actually 2025.
Well, 41 now. Don't remind me.
Yeah. So, well, I heard they're going to be touring the next album soon too. Like the remaining members of the Pogues, even having the audacity of calling themselves the Pogues.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I'll probably go. It's not too expensive, but
yeah, I saw that they reunited in 2024, but it's not like it's like who's left.
I mean, Shane's not involved.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their second bass player, the one who replaced Cott, also passed away. Yeah. And then as well as Andrew Rankin. Wait, no, that's the drummer.
That's the drummer.
Who am I thinking? The guitar player that joined later. Bill Chevron.
Yeah.
Yeah, he passed away as well. So there's,
it's really just like one original member, basically.
No, there's plenty. I mean, there's 37 people in that band.
Well, I mean, it could be good. I don't know.
I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, I'm not going to put it down till at least I hear it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the band would gain more attention when they went on the UK Channel 4 music show called The Tube. They actually made a video of their version of Waxy's Dargle for the show. And the performance featured Spider, Stacy, repeatedly smashing himself over the head with a beer tray. It's a great video. Okay. And it became a favorite of all the viewers. Now, Stiff Records refused to release that song as a single, feeling it was too late for it to help Red Roses for Me. Nevertheless, it remained a favorite request for the show for many years. You do that song, right?
We do, absolutely.
Yeah, you do that song.
We do that whole album.
Yeah. No, I'm saying it's in your regular set, even when you're not doing the whole album. I've seen you a couple of times. It's great. Yeah. I'm half in the bag, but I remember most of it.
I don't always hit my head with the beer tray, but special night.
You know what? If you want me to do it, I'll volunteer myself to go on stage.
Good to know.
So now this is where it gets interesting in the Pogues for me, because Elvis Costello kind of caught wind of them.
Okay? Yeah.
And he produced their follow-up, the second album called Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash in 1985. Probably one of the best titles for an album I've ever heard. Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash. Great album cover, too.
Yeah.
Now, this was the time when guitarist Phil Chevron joined up. Okay. The album title is a famous comment falsely attributed to Winston Churchill, who didn't say it, okay? But he was supposedly describing the true traditions of the British Royal Navy. I don't know who actually said it, but people think it's Winston Churchill, but it's not, okay? The album cover featured the raft of Medusa with the faces of the characters in Gericault's painting replaced with those of the band members. So you got Shane's face and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Shane came into his own at this point as a songwriter, I believe, at this point. A lot of the The lyrics are poetic, storytelling type of stuff.
Yeah.
Songs like The Sick Bed of Cuchulainn and
Cullen.
Cuchulainn, sorry, I'm very bad with the Gaelic. And The Old Main Drag, okay, as well as very definitive interpretations of Ewan McCall's Dirty Old Town. Eric Pogues and the band played Waltzing Matilda. I mean, these were kind of like traditional songs that the Pogues really kind of made their own just by covering them.
Yeah, yeah. Gentleman Soldier as well as on there.
Yeah,
That's
right. Now, the band failed to take advantage of the momentum created by the strong artistic and commercial success of their second album, unfortunately. They first refused to record another album, offering up the 4-track EP called Poetry in Motion instead.
Which is, I think, their best work.
Poetry in Motion?
Yeah, those 4 tunes are awesome. Like,
Yeah,
it has my favorite Pogue song, Body of American. London Girl, which is, you know, it's kind of a departure of like what they've been doing. So that's always nice when they venture out.
Right.
Rainy Night in Soho.
Yeah, that's the classic on it.
You know, and then an instrumental called Dingle Regatta, which is kind of forgotten, but we play it because it's my favorite original instrumental of theirs. So.
Right. I think what happened at this point with the band, I mean, they didn't want to record another albums. They just threw together this EP. The experience, at least the way Shane describes it, was kind of shitty. Recording Rum Sodomy and the Lash with Costello, it was really a big fight between him and Costello in the direction the album was going to go.
Yeah.
Also, Costello had his eyes on Kate. Okay, they would end up getting married, I think, not too long after that, because she would leave the band.
Yeah, she would leave the band to stay with him.
Yeah, that was a little bit of, I think, a tension creator in the studio. Also
Elvis Costello wanted them to sound good, so you know, he made them play the parts over till they sounded really well.
Shane didn't have the patience for that, I think.
Exactly.
You know, it was,
so he would make Shane sing in tune. You know, he didn't want him to be all just drunk and slurry.
Right.
So, which I think is a legit thing to do. That's like the job of a producer. So
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not blaming Costello with it. It's just it's just funny how, you know, they had such this bad kind of experience. I don't know how the others feel. I'm just speaking for Shane.
Yeah,
it's probably just him. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of the guy, we're going to sound professional. You know, he's like, "Hey, fuck this. Let's do it in one take."
Yeah.
My favorite story about that, I don't know if it's going ahead, but Cot, which is the proper way to say her name. It's not Kate, it's Cot. And
you're going to correct me with the Gaelic on this whole show.
That's why I'm here. And then the T, it's spelled more like Kosh. It's the proper way. Not everyone does that.
Yeah.
You say her name, so Cot is the way, but you say it more like the single cloth bed, Cot. Right. Anyways, so when she departed from the band, what had happened is she had taken her bass from the practice area, and everybody in the band was like, "Why did she take her bass?" And they're like, "Oh, maybe she's going to practice." And then they're like, "She never practices." So that's when they knew that she was out.
Oh man.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like she was with Costello and she was kind of turning up to some gigs, but you know, like it wasn't like I'm out. It kind of like went on for a while. And
yeah,
you know, the Pogues are not necessarily like a very traditional group of people, you know. They're living pretty hard. So, you know, I think especially hanging out with Shane MacGowan during all of that can get a little tough.
So Kat would join, would marry Costello, leave the band, and be replaced by bassist Daryl Hunt, formerly of a band called Plummet Airlines, and also a band called Pride of the Cross. And they added a multi-instrumentalist guy named Terry Woods. Yeah. He was in a band called Steel Eye Span. Now,
you ever heard that first Steel Eye Span record?
No, I have never heard it.
It's great.
Really? Now, what's it like?
I mean, it's way different. It's a little bit more in the traditional. The lead vocalist, whose name I should be able to tell you, and I can't right now, but she's got just a gorgeous, rich, unique voice. And the first record, Terry sings a few tunes as well. So it's a great record. It sounds like a 70s, kind of like a 70s rock, if 70s rock were going to be Irish music, but still kind of leaning a little bit more to traditional Celtic stuff. But it's a lovely record.
So it has an Irish bent to it.
Yeah, it's an Irish record.
I've never actually heard them. I heard of them, but I've never heard them.
It's the only band. It's the only one that Steel Ice Band I think has a drum set on it, which I like hearing drums. So that's
me too. Me too. You need that, definitely. Now, this period of time, and we just kind of mentioned it, was like a time for Shane. He was really partying. That's all I could say about that. And things were kind of erratic in the band. Now, also at the time, Stiff Records, their label, went bankrupt. And that happened right after their 1987 release of the single, The Irish Rover, that they did with the Dubliners. Okay. Yeah. Which you got to mention because that is absolutely incredible and timeless. Ronnie drew that video with Shane. It's kind of almost like Shane is the next generation.
Yeah.
After Ronnie.
Yeah, I think there was that meeting that sort of allowed the Pogues to be accepted by mainstream Ireland, sorry, because when they first came out, a lot of people were really upset that they were, Ireland was kind of trying to get away from the stereotypes of like the Irish drunken person. They were trying to be a little bit more well established and nice, and then the Pogues came around and just embellished all of that stuff, and so people were upset. But it was kind of after that second record, it was like, okay, well, some of these tunes really have something to say, and they're doing some really great renditions, like as you said, like Dirty Old Town. That is now the version we all know. Right. And so once the Dubliners sort of gave them the thumbs up, then the rest of Ireland couldn't really disagree with that.
Right. Ronnie Drew was and always will be a national hero to Ireland, and to get his okay on it definitely gave the seal of approval to the Pogues. But like you say, this kind of music that really Shane and the band is credited, this genre of music is really coming from them originally.
Yeah, it was invented.
It couldn't have happened in Ireland. It had to happen from outside of Ireland because of, like you say, Ireland at the time in the early 80s was trying to modernize, get away from the stereotypical drunken Irish Paddy, kind of look and sound. Yeah. And there comes Shane kind of playing that up, and not, for real, he was living it. But once the Dubliners kind of embraced them, that was all. After at that point, it was like, okay, they're cool.
Yeah, totally.
So the band remained stable enough at that point to record "If I Should Fall from the Grace of God," and that's their next album. And it was basically. It got to number 1 in the Irish charts. They were really picking up steam. Number 2 in the British charts as well. And it was based on the single Fairy Tale of New York, which is, I don't know if that's their most famous song, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Whenever you do a Christmas song that's a hit.
Yeah.
It charted number 2.
Yeah.
And that's, miles and away higher than anything else they put out ever charted.
Right. And I know I think I had heard in that documentary, the Crock of Gold, about Shane, that basically that's what he lived on for the rest of his life. The royalties of that comes out every year. Was incredible. So, and he put the song down. He's like, oh, it sucks.
Well, he's heard it so many times, but I mean, like, that's just being cool. He spent a lot of time working on that song. We have to mention Kirsty MacColl because it is a duet.
Yeah. And she was fantastic on that.
Yeah. And she was like a last minute decision. Initially, she wanted Cott O'Riordan to do it, who was the original bass player. And then when she left the group, obviously, and there's a demo version of her singing the other part.
I have never heard.
Yeah. Wow. There's an old demo version. And the song has gone through a lot of iterations. Like, it took a long time for them to land on that song being a perfectly constructed song. But yeah, Kirsty MacColl is the wife of the producer, Steve Lillywhite.
Yes.
so that's where they called her in, and she kind of needed a boost. She was she had a big bout of stage fright, so she had a really hard time performing, even though she was putting out some really great music. I think also on Stiff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she's. I don't know if at that point she was still on them, but
something like that.
Something like that. I know her first single, "They Don't Know."
Yeah,
that was eventually it was on Stiff. It didn't really chart. It's a great song, and then Tracy Ullman covered it and made the song everybody knows. But her version of it's just as good as Tracy's.
Yeah, pretty much.
They did it basically the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also it's got to be mentioned that Fairy Tale of New York got censored, by the BBC because of certain words in there that are deemed a little politically incorrect.
Was it censored to BBC? I mean, like in America, they just didn't play it. That's why it never became big. I mean, that word kind of prevented it, I think, from being a bigger song than it was.
Probably it wasn't a hit in America, but it still got to number 2 in the UK, and they just bleeped out the word. Okay, so and then I think like they might have had to perform it a few times, a little bit censored as well. I think if they in the beginning.
Yeah, and even Shane's okay with that. Like in later days, he's like, yeah, okay, I understand.
It was played at his funeral, uncensored, but it was played.
Was it?
In the church? They actually said faggot in the church.
We don't say that word in our band. We changed it to fucker.
Okay.
And it still works.
It works. Rhymes or whatever, It
rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. In 1989, the band would release Peace and Love, which was I guess you could say a jazzier kind of record, featuring 6 tracks written by Shane MacGowan, as well as 8 tracks written by band members Jem Finer, Terry Woods, Andrew Rankin, and Philip Chevron. As Mark Deming wrote in All Music, which is a pretty good website, it does make clear that Shane MacGowan was hardly the only talented songwriter in the band, though the fact that the set's most memorable songs were written by others did not bode well for the group's future. I kind of agree with that, because they kind of changed at that point, don't you think? A little bit?
Yeah, but it wasn't a matter of the band being like, hey, we really want to exercise our artistic merit. It was a matter of Shane's just like, this is all I got. He was going through the transformation phase. I mean, he didn't really necessarily be one of living off the road, but off of the success of If I Should Fall from Grace with God, their manager, who I believe, and I think most people believe, is largely to blame for Shane MacGowan becoming the man that he did, which is, a shadow of himself, or more like a blob of himself, is because he wouldn't allow the band to just take some time off, which is really what needed to happen. Like Shane just needed to go back home and regroup and get his bearings back and come back. But what's his name? McGinnis. I forget what his first name is, but he's the longtime manager.
Yeah.
Obviously he is responsible for getting the Pogues to the fame that they did. But at that point in time, if he'd just said, hey, let's just relax and then come back to this, then we can do it. But they wanted to bang out another record. And it does sound like, more like a B-side record, I think. It's a little bit just kind of trying to piece together what they could.
Fill material a little bit like that.
Yeah, and it isn't to say that the other members couldn't write a good song. Yeah, there's good songs by other people in the band. I think some of the more famous tunes are the ones that are written by other people, like Lorelei. People are always requesting us to do that one. That's Andrew Rankin.
Yeah.
And just an asterisk, Andrew Rankin wrote Thousands Are Sailing on the previous record. So it's not the first time that Shane isn't the only songwriter.
They were contributing before that.
And which is one of the best songs. Thousands Are Sailing is a
great tune. I didn't know he wrote that one. I didn't realize.
Yeah. And live he sang it as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
So anyway,
and interestingly though, the band, I mean, despite this, the band was at its peak as far as commercial success. That album had made top 5 in the UK. There was also 1988. That's the first time they really toured America, and I saw them at that point. Okay,
oh, wow.
Yeah, very cool. So it was when Fairy Tale was out and everything like that. And
I am jealous.
only because I'm older than you. That's it. Trust me, you would have been there.
It's surprising how many people still play that song all year round. Fairy Tale New York, because I hear it in the international jukebox at least. On a 10-hour shift, I hear it like 6-7 times.
Even not at Christmas?
Even not on Christmas. People just like that song.
Yeah.
They do. We don't play it on Christmas. Or I mean, we don't, that would be the punk rock thing. Only play the rest of the year. Yeah, we save it for Christmas time. As long as the Christmas lights are up at Patty Riley's, we'll play it.
Right. They're up all the time.
They
But
kind of
in 1988, now during this tour, there were some dates that Shane didn't show up for. Okay, and that's kind of when some of the problems were starting. So that kind of this kind of like erratic behavior, and it was, because he really needed time off and other things, that kind of prevented them from promoting their next album, which was called Hell's Ditch. And that came out, and then in 1991, they fired him from the band.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was
Hell's Ditch, produced by Joe Strummer.
Right. I was going to mention that. Yeah, they fired him because of a performance at what was called the WOMAD Festival in Japan. Okay. He basically, I think he didn't show, and then he finally showed and put on like a crappy performance, something like that. That was the end of him being in the band. Now he would take some time off and eventually regroup with Shane MacGowan and the Popes and all that. But what was happening in the Pogues at that point is Joe Strummer handled some of the vocals, okay, for that album, promoting that album tour. Okay, and then Spider Stacy took over permanently for that after Strummer left in the winter of 1991.
Which technically Spider was the original. He was supposed to be the lead singer of the group.
Yeah.
But they found Shane to be better, and they also they found Spider to be a pain in the ass. So I think that was part of it as well.
Yeah, and I mean he was great on the tin whistle, so I don't know how he was going to sing and play the tin whistle at the same time.
Well, he learned the tin whistle because he was kind of shoved aside as being the lead singer. So he's like, all right, I'll learn tin whistle.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Which is, I mean, that's what a lot of people in the Pogues did. Like James McFerny wasn't an accordion player. He was originally a guitar, well, among other things, a guitar player for the Nips.
Yes.
And then, he went and learned the chord. They said, learn this thing for our band, and he did.
Yeah. Now, after Strummer left, and the remaining 7 Pogues would record in 1993 an album called Waiting for Herb, which contained the band's third and final top 20 single, Tuesday Morning, which was written and sung by Spider. Okay, so he went on vocals for that. Now, Terry Woods and James Fernley subsequently left the band and were replaced by David Coulter and James McNally, respectively. Within months of their departures, ill health forced Phil Chevron to leave, and he was replaced by his guitar tech, Jamie Clark. This lineup recorded the band's 7th and final studio album called Pogue Mahone. The album was a commercial flop, unfortunately, and following Jem Finer's decision to leave the band in 96, the remaining members decided it was time to hang it up altogether. Now, according to Shane MacGowan, among the reasons of the breakup was disagreement concerning the political orientation of his songs, the band not wanting to sing too obvious pro-Republican songs, though some of their previous songs were already politically engaged. For instance, like Streams of Whiskey is about the poet and IRA member Brendan Behan. And soon after the breakup, Shane MacGowan recorded a song titled Patty Public Enemy Number 1 as a tribute to the Republican leader Dominic McGlinchey, and a former leader of the INLA killed a few years before that. So not sure if Shane really had to, I mean, he was already out of the band for a couple of years. Yeah. Not sure if he really had a good gauge on what was going on in the band still.
Yeah, he wasn't in the band when the band dissolved. Yeah. So
I guess he just felt to comment on it, Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is Jem has really always been the glue of the band.
Mm-hmm.
When he kind of joined, like it was him, I think, seeing the New Republicans, where he was like, I want to play music with that guy. And Jem was the main co-writer of a lot of Shane MacGowan tunes. Like whenever there would be an instrumental section in something, typically it was him that brought it to the table. He's also co-writer of Fairy Tale in New York. So, yeah, Jem's involvement is kind of like once he's gone, he's like the Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah,
you know,
like
once he's gone, it's not the Pogues.
Yeah. Right. So Shane would make 2 albums with the Popes, Shane MacGowan and the Popes. He founded that band in 1992. After they were done, the Pogues reunion in 2001, right, was kind of starting to form in place. Okay. According to Shane's autobiography, A Drink with Shane MacGowan, which was written with his girlfriend and then later on his wife, Victoria Mary Clark.
Which is impossible to read.
What's that?
Which is impossible to read.
I think it's a great book. It's almost like she's interviewing him, but it is hard, you know?
Yeah, he contradicts himself like throughout and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so Jem Finer got into some kind of experimental music, and he played a big part in a project known as Long Player, a piece of music designed to play continuously for 1,000 years without repeating itself. I have never heard that. Have you? Have you heard anything about that?
That's some Brian Eno shit right there.
I was just going to say Eno. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that sounds more like what he would do. But yeah, I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, it's good to check it out. Now, James Fearnley moved to the United States shortly before leaving the Pogues. He was a member of the Low and Sweet Orchestra and later the Cranky George Trio. Philip Chevron reformed his former band, the Radiators, which briefly included former Pogue Cat. Okay. Now, Terry Woods formed the Bucks with Ron Cavana, releasing the album Dancing to the I'm not going to say it right. Dancing to the Seeley Band in 1994. Okay. Later, he formed the Woods Band and released the album Music from the Four Corners of Hell in 2002. Now, the band, including Shane MacGowan, reformed for a Christmas tour in 2001 and performed 9 shows in the UK and Ireland in December of 2004. In 2002, Q Magazine named the Pogues one of the 50 bands you need to see before you die. Yeah. And July 2005, the band again, including MacGowan, played at the annual Guildfest Festival in Guildford before flying out to Japan, where they played 3 dates. Japan is the last place they all played together before MacGowan was originally sacked in 1991, and they have a very big following in Japan, so they wanted to make sure they got back there. Okay. The band played a date in Spain in September of 2005. The reunited Pogues played dates in the UK with support from the Dropkick Murphys in late 2005 and re-released their 1987 Christmas classic Fairy Tale of New York on December 19th of that year, which went straight in at number 3 in the UK singles charts on Christmas Day 2005, showing the song's enduring popularity. That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
You know, now on December 22nd, 2005, the BBC broadcast a live performance on the Jonathan Ross Christmas show with Katie Melua filling in for the late Kirsty MacColl, who unfortunately passed away in that boating accident a few years earlier.
Yeah, very tragically.
Yeah, that was the first time the band had played the song live on TV.
Wow.
The following week, they performed live on the music show CD UK. And Shane MacGowan wrote an article for The Guardian in 2006 detailing his thoughts on the current tour. The band was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award at the annual Meteor Ireland Music Awards in February 2006. In March 2006, the band played their first U.S. dates with Shane in over 15 years.
Wow.
Okay, I was there. Okay.
I was there.
Yep. Where'd you see them?
Chicago.
Okay. Yep, I see that right here. They played D.C., Chicago, Atlantic City. I wonder where they played in Atlantic City.
Good question.
They're probably playing the Boardwalk.
Maybe the Showboat, right? Or,
the Showboat, one of those. All those places got joints, you know, even Caesar. They
could have been House of Blues. Could have been House of Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, to go to Nugget, you know, because they've been around forever.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. What era of Atlantic City was it at that point? I'm not sure when it crumbled. You know.
Well, 2006, some of the original casinos were closed. I think it's kind of like a second generation era. You know, you still had House of Blues. You still had
Tropicana. You also had what you call it? What was the oh man, the Taj Mahal. They could have played Taj Mahal because that was around too. And they
there was also there was also the other one, the Trump Marina. I saw Alice Cooper at the Trump Marina. That was a great show.
Yeah,
but that was like late '90s. So I think it was still there in 2006. Could have been. It's a good thing. I'll look it up. So later they would play a series of sold out gigs during mid-October of 2006 in San Francisco, in Las Vegas, in LA. They went back across to Europe. They played Glasgow, Manchester, Birmingham, London, Dublin, Nottingham in mid-December of 2006. They began a second U.S. tour in March of 2007, which concluded with a Roseland Ballroom show on St. Patrick's Day. Now, I did not make that show.
That Rose Bowl is probably one of Roseland.
I still kick myself in the ass for not going to that show. I remember that.
That'd have been amazing.
2007 proved to be their most prolific year of touring since the reunion, with a tour of the West Coast of America and 11 dates in the UK in December. The band also made festival appearances in the summer across Europe, including Sweden, Belgium, and Spain. So you're talking like 25 years after they got
I saw him in 2000 in Chicago at the Roseland Ballroom, and Shane was the best I'd ever seen him.
Yeah.
He sounded like Rum Sodomy in the Lash era. Like his voice was like full and great.
He had cleaned himself up at that point. Okay?
Yeah, it seems that way.
When he was in the Popes, I think he got into some hard drugs and really eventually had to take some time off and clean himself up. So he was ready to come back strong with the Pogues, you know.
Yeah. But they did a lot of touring, man. That's a lot of touring. When you talking about like they stop one tour and then they're like again. People get burned out for like that. That's crazy.
For a dude who hates touring. Yeah. A lot.
He always said he hated it, but he just always did it with the band.
Gotta make that money.
Exactly. Now, guitarist Phil Chevron has stated there were no plans to record new music or release a new album at that time. Chevron said that one way to keep enjoying what they were doing was to avoid making a new album. Although he did say that there is still the possibility in the future for new music, but certainly not in the near future. Terry Woods has commented that MacGowan had been writing and most of it sounds good. But in 2008, the band would come out with a great box set called Look Them Straight in the Eye and Say Pogue Mahone, which included a lot of like outtakes and unreleased material. That's a great set. Everybody should check that out. It's a good place to start.
Never officially released in the United States, so you have to import it.
You have to dig. I think it is now. I think I saw it on Amazon.
They probably do have it now.
You can get it on Amazon, but I think it's still imported.
Still imported?
Okay. It's not on Spotify. If you're in America, if you're on Spotify out of the United States, it's available.
Then you can get it. So obviously, you're right. Then it's still imported. So the band received mixed reviews of some of their performances, though, even though they were, selling out the shows. The Washington Post in 2008 described MacGowan as puffy and paunchy, but said the singer still has a banshee wail to beat Howard Dean's, which was a reference to Howard Dean yelling at the politician. Didn't he go like, yeehaw?
That one scream ruined his whole life.
Yeah, ruined his entire political career because he had a good scream.
Exactly. Totally ruined it for him. God. In the same review, in the Washington Post, it says, the set started off shaky, MacGowan singing of going nowhere, streams of whiskey are flowing, and looking like he'd already been there.
Yeah.
See, but that's a good review to us.
Yeah.
But he was fucked up.
That's not a picture you wouldn't expect it any other way. Okay, so in March of 2011, The Pogues played a 6-city, 10-show sold-out U.S. tour titled "A Parting Glass with the Pogues." Parting Glass is a traditional Irish song. They played Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, D.C., Boston, and New York City. It was actually in that order, with only the last 3 cities getting more than one show. And Spider has said, I think we are basically pretty certain this is the last tour of this type we'll be doing in the States. There might be the odd sort of one-off here and there. We're not saying this is absolutely, definitely the end. In August of 2012, the Pogues embarked on their 30th anniversary summer tour, which was an 8-city European tour scheduled from August 4th, 2012, which at the Stockton Weekender Festival in Stockton-on-Tees in the UK, to the 11th and 12th of September of 2012 at La Olympia in Paris, Olympia. 2 shows were filmed and recorded for a live album and DVD, which was released in November of 2012. I have that DVD somewhere. You could see it on YouTube, I think, has it for free. I think you can see it. In March of 2013, the Pogues would release 3030, the Essential Collection, a 2-disc set featuring 30 songs along with 11 videos. In October of 2013, the Pogues released a box set called Pogues 30, containing remastered versions of all their studio albums, plus a previously unreleased live album featuring Joe Strummer at the London Forum in December of '91.
Wow.
Sadly, though, guitarist Philip Chevron would pass away on October 8th, 2013 from esophageal cancer, and he was only 56.
Wow.
Yeah, very sad.
Esophagus is nothing to mess with, man.
Nah, very sad. In December 2013, the Pogues went on a 4-date UK Christmas tour, followed by a few shows during the spring and summer of 2014. The Pogues' last performance on British soil occurred on the 6th of July in 2014 at the British Summertime Festival in London Hyde Park. And the Pogues' last ever performance to date, now I know that they've been reforming now, but at that point was August 9th, 2014, and that was in France. Okay. Now, over the next 10 years, there was always talk of them. Shane was saying, we're not going to say no, we're not going to say yes. He was kind of back and forth with it. During this time, though, Shane really hadn't put anything out. Okay. And, sadly, I mean, I think he was writing and working on things, but just nothing was ever released. And, of course, the saddest thing of all is he would pass away at the end of November of 2023 at the age of 65. Also in that time, in 2022, a year earlier, Daryl Hunt, their bass player, had passed away.
Yeah.
So, he was at the age of 72. He's quite a bit older than them, which I didn't realize.
That's
At that point, when Shane passed away, I really didn't think that there would be any chance of a Pogues reunion of any point. But then on May 3rd, 2024, surviving members Finer, Fernley, and Stacy performed Pogues songs with a variety of guest musicians on vocals at Hackney Empire in London to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Red Roses for Me. The reformed band subsequently announced that they would be touring the UK and Ireland in 2025 to mark the 40th anniversary of their second album, Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash. So that's where we're at right now, guys, with it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance they're going to play the United States. I don't see that they would leave that out.
I wouldn't bank on it. They haven't announced it yet.
No, they haven't announced it, but you think it's not going to happen?
I can't say one way or another. I mean, I feel like they have sort of conflicting feelings about the States, but who knows? We'll see. I mean, I'm not sure. It's a lot to ask for everybody to swing over here.
Well, they are up there in age, okay,
and they're not as big in the States as they are in the UK.
Yeah, and they're going to have to play smaller venues.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
So who knows? It could happen.
It
No,
could
If
but
it go, I mean, if it happens, I'm going.
I'll be there, and then, you know, I think there's talk. I'm hearing rumors of new music too, so I don't know
Oh wow.
if they're
You know
gonna put out
If
anything.
they do play, they probably play like the Steel in Brooklyn or the Paramount in Brooklyn. One of those places they'll play. There's the smaller venue.
Urban
Like
Plaza.
1,000 people, Urban Plaza.
Yeah, yeah,
It wouldn't be bad, you know.
Yeah, no, not at all.
yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, so that's the history of the Pogues. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Nate, for joining us. Your
Yeah, man.
input was invaluable, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
And
no
remember
problem.
his dates. What are the dates he playing?
Yeah, I'll give it again real quick.
Well, we have a website now, which is pretty exciting. So you can. We have our dates all up. It's www.darkstreetsnyc.com.
Oh, that's good to know.
So for all the information you need, everything's up there.
And
nice.
the 15th at the bitter end, the 16th, the cruise, also the 16th, Mama Tried in Brooklyn. And then, of course, Patty Riley's on St. Patty's Day at 7:00.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So what do we say at the end of every show, Rob?
We don't get drunk.
We get lumped up.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care, people.
It is that time now once again, for getting lumped up with my friends. It's Rock the Mic and Rob that you should know, and you'll find them here on the Rock Show.